Hello everyone, this is some guy who ranks stuff here, and I think this might be the toughest tier list I've made so far. This is the biggest Naruto fights, well, in the Naruto series, or Naruto anime anyway. It's created by, well, the template is created by Gutsy Fool on Twitter, so shout out to him or her. Uh, So the difficult thing here is that I've chosen, well, basically one that has a lot of fights, and I've seen the whole series, both the original Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, at least twice. Once when it was like all new, and a second time. I watched the complete series a second time a couple of years ago. So it's been a couple of years since I've seen a lot of these fights, and I might be forgetting some details or misremembering stuff. So this can be difficult. And I also see that you have different fights that is kind of divided into like the if new fighters come in for the actual fight. Like if I can, yeah, it doesn't seem to appear here, but if I just try to scroll down over here, I think you see. Where is it now? I was looking at this earlier and noticed some. Jeez, where is it? Um, the Kimimaro fight with Lee and Naruto. Jeez, I'm so blind right now. Okay. Oh yeah, over here. So we have like both, um, like the Naruto versus Kimimaro, and then Lee versus Kimimaro as different fights, and then you have Gaara versus Kimimaro, so to speak. So um, it might be challenging to find or try. What am I talking about? It can be challenging to give the correct analysis, well, short analysis for each different fight here. Um, I would rather have like the whole battle as one, but this is I think the most interesting template I could find right now, or as I was looking, yeah, last night. So I guess we'll just go ahead and see there. It's a random pattern here. We'll start. We're actually starting off with some fights in the war arc, and then there are some others in between, and then you go back to the war and everything. So it's kind of random here. Um, we'll just start with the first one. So you see here, it's I guess Black Zetsu versus Mei and the others who were protecting the Kages during the war. Uh, and this is where I mean, it's cool to see Mei fighting a little bit. She has some interesting powers, and I think she's kind of maybe overlooked in some ways. And but I just don't remember many details about this fight, so I'll put it in B for now. You have Gara versus Rasa, I mean his father, which was cool. We actually got to finally see what the former Kazakage is capable of. We never really saw him back in the day, other than flashbacks. During Gara's youth, we only saw Orochimaru disguised as him, and then we saw at least I can't remember if you actually saw the body, but at least his clothes, like the Kazakage clothes. And seeing him have this gold dust power was actually really interesting. I mean, he got to see that Gara had friends, so to speak. He was the current Kazakage. It was really emotional, and I think among those battles, those fights in that battle during the war arc, I think it was one of the more interesting encounters, at least. The action was quite good, but I think the emotional connection between father and son here really made it that much better. Whoops! Just knocked over my PlayStation Mini here. I was trying to play Resident Evil earlier, so we have Geez, I always misremember the numbers here, but I think it's the third Raikage. Is that correct? Um, A's father, who was lightning fast. Naruto was able to counter him by making him hurt himself. Yeah, I think it's maybe wait, maybe I'll put it like this instead. Um, because there are a lot of other fights, I think I would rather place above these without them being top tier, to be honest. It's not one of the most interesting ones, but yeah, like Gara and Rasa had more emotional attachment and, of course, uh, some backstory to it, so it was more impactful for me that way. So the second Mizukage was actually very interesting, but it was just it was an interesting battle, but it was so annoying to just see how he tried to help everyone, which was a good thing. It was a good thing he tried to help the allied shinobi forces defeating him, but it was really hard for everyone to understand what he meant. So it was kind of a frustrating fight, but he did have some interesting powers, even though I thought it was weird to use like a huge clam to create a genjutsu. But anyway, so Mu is actually a really interesting character. I think I wish we could see more of him. He was so mysterious in so many ways, uh, but I don't remember this part as much as the other ones here. I think these were more memorable, so I'll put it down in C tier. So what I see here is the well, Naruto and B versus the other, like Edo Tensei Jinchuriki with, or the six new paths of Obito or Toby. I think this had a lot of potential, but unfortunately didn't really flesh out as well as it could be. I mean, it was really interesting when we saw how Obito used these and went into the war alongside them. But I don't think the battle was as exciting as it could have been. Then we have Madara versus the entire forces here when he was first reanimated. This, like, the battle sure was great. I'll put it in A, I think. Of course, it was a great introduction, but I did enjoy the moments where they first saw him better and like create the bigger mystery around who was the actual masked man who claimed he was Madara um, all along. And I just loved how they had the like Gara, especially notice how his eyes were actually reanimated. So it created this huge mystery and revelation. You know, if Madara is here, then who's the masked man? I thought that was great, and the battle that followed was also great because he had Madara built up as this insanely powerful human from like ages ago, and all of a sudden he enters the battle and he introduces himself really well here. So I think these battles, like during daylight, are kind of memorable in many ways, but it all gets really fuzzy as night comes and you have all the tail beasts and everything. I think this, like, I didn't enjoy like this, even though I love the tail beasts and I love the idea of them. The battle didn't flesh out as well as I hoped it would. Although Madara versus the 5 Kage might actually be an S tier battle for me. I thought it was amazing. Um, I think it looks like here it's Obito versus Naruto, Kakashi, and Guy. I honestly, well, I think this is the part of the battle where we get to see Obito's face at some point, so that makes it really interesting. Might be wrong though, and like I mentioned in the beginning, might be misremembering things. So correct me if I'm wrong, of course. But I'm sorry if that impacts my opinion on these fights in the wrong way. If I mean, if I don't really know what I'm talking about, and I base that on my ranking here, it might get a little bit wrong. But I hope this makes sense either way. So we see here now that suddenly, all of a sudden, we're in the Forest of Death during the Chunin exam. So here is Sasuke versus Orochimaru, and this was like the first real introduction of Orochimaru, at least when it comes to combat. And it's not one that I look at very often, but just looking back right now and just remembering, like hearing Orochimaru's theme, seeing how much he scared Sasuke and Naruto, and Sakura, of course. It was a really special moment, and like from the beginning, it really built up Orochimaru as this huge threat. So I think it's an 8-year battle actually for that. So I'm just gonna say now that Itachi is one of my favorite characters in the series, and even though, I mean, this isn't a top tier battle, that's for sure. The Izanami, I mean, I loved how Itachi went this way. He broke free from the reanimation. He went after Kabuto um, to make him dispel the reanimations. And I mean, the way he does it with Izanami, even though it kind of makes, I might be wrong here, but I thought I've read somewhere that like Izanagi and Izanami in like Japanese culture or mythology, they're like two things that belong together in some ways. So it makes sense to have a counter to the Izanagi, but it did come out of nowhere, so to speak. And like the Mangekyo Sharingan was built up as this really rare thing for Uchihas to have, but when Itachi explains Izanami, you look back uh, and see like this bunch of different Uchihas activating their Izanamis, having Mangekyo Sharingan. Like everyone used it and thought they would be like the most powerful entity in the world. It just made it just made the Mangekyo Sharingan in general look a lot sillier than it used to be. So I think it detracts there. It came out of nowhere. Like we never heard of it before this fight, and I also don't like. I watched. I think it was Diagonite on YouTube, making a video about how Kabuto didn't deserve to have his role in the war arc. I kind of agree. Um, I never liked Kabuto. I thought it was a dull character. It never felt threatening, which is something he explained in the video as well. So him being this new Orochimaru makes kind of sense, but I just never bought him as this really badass villain. And it annoyed me how strong he had become. He had become a sage, which is something Orochimaru, this genius, had been able to do. It kind of bugs me. But it was still an interesting fight. And I love the moment before when Sasuke saw Itachi, like passing by. It was an amazing moment. But of course, that doesn't really count much into the fact of how good the fight is. But it's still, I think it's worth mentioning at least. But I did enjoy how the Izanami was pulled off, how they made it so confusing to both the audience and Kabuto himself. So I did find that really interesting. I thought the fight was decently good at least. So here's more of like Obito and Madara versus the forces of the Allied Shinobi, and I don't remember too much like details and everything about this, so I can't say much about it. I'll put it in B for now. So I see here it's Kurama, but I'm not sure which battle this is supposed to be. If it's like Attack on Konoha or if there's Madara standing there. I'm not sure actually. I'll save it for later. So here we have Obito versus Kakashi. And this one has been talked about as being one of the most amazing battles in the entire series. And it's like when I first saw it, it was exciting, but I didn't think it was like one of the absolute best. But it has grown on me, and seeing it for the second time a couple years ago, I did really enjoy it, especially when you have. It was really emotional with the music, especially when you saw the flashbacks to how they were fighting during the academy days. Um, and I'm so glad we had like these episodes about. Well, we actually saw it way before, like how Obito seemingly died, and we got to learn about how they awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. I think we did see that beforehand. It did help build up this fight as well, made it really climactic. So it was great. So here are more things that I don't remember, like how. Well, of course I remember Guy though, versus Madara. That was actually really really cool. I think that's an S tier. But I just can't remember what makes these battles separate. Well, maybe this one. This is like Madara versus the forces and the tailed beasts. There's just so much coming from the same row of episodes, and I just can't remember what happened when, and this gets all too fuzzy for me. So, um, and when it becomes like that, I think it's. I mean, the war arc dragged on quite a bit, and it got less and less interesting in some ways. There were some twists and turns, of course, but were they good? Like Zetsu taking over Obito's body, betraying Madara. I mean, I'll just put them all in C. I just can't tell them much from each other. It's part of this huge, huge war, and to me, here and now, it's hard for me to differentiate these fights. And well, that's on me because I didn't like prepare well enough. But I also think it kind of says something about how they felt as fights when a decent fan can't tell them much apart. Well, that's me anyway. So if you can, know the details and can rank these differently, then of course I'm happy for you, and I think it's great that you can, but I can't, and yeah, I kind of suck for that. But either way, it's just how it is for me. So now we're back in the Forest of Death, and we didn't see much of this fight, but this encounter, I think it was Kiba, Hinata, and Shino who witnessed this battle. This built up Gara as this super dangerous enemy, and like looking back at this now, it's just so weird to think that he was this threatening, this unstable and dangerous, just killing these Rain Village people right in front of the eyes looking. And I think it's exciting too to kind of see it through the eyes of team. What was it again? 10? Kiba's team. I can't remember the number, but short fight. But man, did it help build up Gara as this dangerous person. Even more. Okay, I can see that there's Sasuke and Naruto beating Madara, or at least attacking him from each their own side. But I just can't. I can't remember much. I forgot to speak much about this one about Guy though. Um, like so many people on YouTube have said, I think it would be more impactful if Guy actually died, because if people could open up all 8 gates, which seemed to be a dangerous thing, which was something that was built up from even from the Chunin exams, when Guy talked about Lee and everything. If people could do that and survive, then well, of course he didn't survive just from nothing, but it would have been more impactful when he went to that extent, when it's been talked about as being this really dangerous thing to do. especially when his father did the same thing as he did in one of the fillers. I think maybe it wasn't filler, but when he fought the seven swordsmen of the mists. But it was a great fight, and it really showed Guy as this super strong dude. So we have Kaguya, and I can't see right now that there's like different parts of the Kaguya battle, but it was interesting. It was weird, but it's like Kaguya was. I did like the turn, like how chakra was explained, how ninjutsu was explained, like the birth of everything. That it was because of this alien, and that it led into Boruto. And Boruto is kind of interesting, but it's far from the same. And I don't really think I appreciate how it changed the series that much. But I still think the battle was pretty good though, for what it was anyway. But like it wasn't like the best, but I think it belongs here. It wasn't too bad either. So this is the final Naruto and Sasuke battle, and there will be several of these here. This is when they're both like super duper powerful. Sasuke has the Rinnegan and everything. I don't really enjoy how he got the Rinnegan and how his powers were just like all of a sudden he could use the powers really well from the beginning. It's I don't know. Well, it's climactic though. It is. So I think it's still somewhat an S tier. So I think this is Obito when he goes crazy, seeing Rin die and awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan. As a fight, nothing too special, I think, but definitely an important moment and well done. Like I love how they animated the activation or the birth, so to speak, of the Mangekyo Sharingan. That you can see both Obito and Kakashi's eye. And of course, the I'm in hell thing was like it was really well animated. So I think I'll put an S tier for that. So we have Kakashi and Obito in the cave where Obito falls at the end. It was so heartwarming to see them finally on the same page and actually cooperating really well, and it did help build up for their final fights in the war arc. So I think to me it's an A tier. There's Minato versus A and B. This is really short. We don't get to see a lot of fighting, but we do get to see Minato's speed, which was awesome. And just for what it was, I think. No, I think this is a B tier. It's not amazing, but if we saw more, if there was more happening in this battle, it would have been cooler. But either way, just seeing them actually encounter each other in the flashback from when A met B and Naruto on the battlefield. Yeah, I think it's a B one. So Danzo and Shizui isn't really much of a fight, and I actually kind of hate the way they animated this, because he stole Shizu's eye. It looked like he just it looked so easy, and it annoys me, to be honest. It actually annoys me how easy it was for Danzo to just pull the eye out from Shisui. So just for that, I think it's a D tier here. So you have Lee versus Dosu, and yeah, this is once again like different parts of the same kind of battle. It's before Sasuke awakens, but why isn't I don't see it here immediately, but I was thinking about how when Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji enter the battle, why isn't that its own thing if these two are separated? I mean, Sasuke didn't do that much more. I mean, he broke Sasuke's arms, though. I think I'll put these both in the same place. The sound a lot of the fights in the Force to Death was interesting. I think this, the whole tuning exam, especially the preliminaries, I think were amazing. Just to show how, like, everyone got to show something that they could do. And Lee was rocking here. The sound ninjas were awesome. Sasuke had the curse mark and got himself more over to the like a more sinister side because of that. But I think like Dozu was really cool to see here. Wish he survived longer. Yeah, I think this was a crucial part in the tuning exams in like the whole thing, and I think this battle was interesting. So Orochimaru versus Anko wasn't. This was more of a confrontation than a fight. So I don't think this really belongs here, to be honest. But this was also like helping building up Orochimaru, seeing how he is one who betrayed the village. He had people that looked up to him at some point. Anko gave her some character. This is like her peak almost. She's actually a really, really cool character, but it's so unfortunate how we didn't see much more of her later in the series. So yeah, B tier, I think. So we have the Force of Death still. I think this, like these Rain Village people, I think, weren't too interesting. It was kind of cool, but I think this is when Kabuto was joining them too. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, either way. So the first preliminary fight between Sasuke and one of those not sound ninjas, but well, they were, but they were fighting under the Konoha headband, I think. The chakra stealing dude. Yeah, I mean Sasuke could have done more, but he didn't dare to use the Sharingan because of the curse mark. So it didn't really live up to its potential that it had. I also felt sorry for Sasuke that he didn't get to see the other fights, because he really missed out on something cool. Zaku and Shino is actually one that I appreciate. Shino looked so dangerous in this battle, in this fight, so I think this is like one that helped. Well, Zaku did look good as well, but Shino just looked that much more dangerous and kind of sinister, which I thought was really cool. Same with Konkuro. I mean, these battles I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire series. And when I saw this again, I thought it was just so cool to see how many of these got to show each other. Like every character got to show what they were capable of. Most of them got to show really cool stuff, and I'll get to one fight later here, which really showed how one character had fallen at some point. Sakura and Ino has been talked about as one of the worst fights in the entire series, and I it's not one of the best, but it's not like one of the absolute worst either. I think it gave both of them some background, some character growth. I thought it was interesting, to be honest. Not too bad, but it didn't have a lot of action, but it made Ino look really cool. But it wasn't like after this that the whole inner Sakura thing became just forgotten, because when I see the earliest episodes again, I always forget that Sakura had like this inner self who was like uh, saying a lot of stuff and just talking or expressing stuff like her mood or anything. But after this battle, after Naruto kind of awakened that inner Sakura to chase Ino out, I just can't remember ever seeing that thing again, which was really weird and just too bad, because that was one of the more interesting things that Sakura had for her, or going for her. So I think this looks like the first episode, Mizuki and Naruto. I mean, this is an important part of the first episode, but as a fight, it's not much or anything at all, to be honest. Tenten versus Tamari. I mean, Tenten, she's got a lot of flack for looking weak, for being weak, useless, or having very little screen time, which is like the most popular meme. And well, it's too bad. Tamari was just that much more powerful. I think she looked amazing here. Tenten didn't, unfortunately. She never looked good again until the war arc, so to speak, which sucks for her. It wasn't much of a fight, but Tamari looked badass at least. So, one of my other favorite characters is Shikamaru. I always loved the laziness, but also his strategies. The fight isn't amazing, but I still enjoy it a lot. He got to show like, well, this really aloof guy can be really smart as well. But one thing that makes no sense to me is when Lee, no, when Shikamaru and Naruto visits Sasuke at the hospital, I think, and when they go over to Lee's room where Gaara is trying to kill him. Shikamaru catches Gaara in his shadow ninjutsu, and Naruto punches Gaara, and then Shikamaru says that all the pain he feels from the impact, Shikamaru feels as well. So he felt the punch, but he didn't feel the pain in the back of the head when Kin here was tricked into leaning herself against the wall, which is really weird. And it never happened again, which is just strange. So, but still, I think I do enjoy this battle to some extent. Anyway, it's not maybe as great as Shino and Saku, but I think it's at least B tier. Geez, I've been talking long enough here. I'll try to speed things up. But here is Kiba versus Naruto, and just Kiba is such an underused character, I think, especially when it comes to his powers. Because when I looked at this fight again, Kiba looked freaking badass. He changes kind of form into a more dog-like animosity, and he even has his own little puppy Akamaru doing the same thing, by changing his shape into him. And I think that was so awesome, and he had like this rough attitude that kind of mellowed over the years, but I never minded that. I did like how he still looked at Naruto as a friend, as an equal, even though he was kind of a jerk here. But this was almost peak Kiba, I think. I think really how I think it's so fun to see and try to see through the other people's eyes, like through the Sand Ninjas. What did they think of the Konoha Ninja when they saw that? I mean, I think Kiba just looked really cool in this battle. It ended in a funny way, which is too bad for him, of course. But I thought this was amazing. And Hinata versus Neji is actually also a really cool fight, I think. Two Hyugas fighting. You see Hinata's guts, her determination to show Naruto how hard she works, but also the genius of Neji, who was really had this perspective on life, which was twisted at the time. Luckily, he also mellowed out and became a really kind-hearted guy. But this was still a great fight. Gaara versus Lee, this was like the first fight I ever saw from the series, I think, and it got me kind of intrigued about the series. But yep, this is definitely an S tier fight. Everyone loves this one. It's so amazing, really. What can I say? I mean, it's kind of weird to see that this also is kind of peak Lee, because after this fight, Gaara didn't really seem that dangerous anymore. He was like this untouchable character, and it's kind of weird to look back and think that like the first time he was hit in a fight was like in episode 40, 50, around there, of out of 720, which of course many of those were fillers, but still, I think it's weird to look back at right now that that streak didn't last longer, kind of. But at the time when it was like new to me, it was really amazing to watch, and it's still a great fight, of course. And when Lee drops the weights, it was amazing. Gara still showed that he's really dangerous, and his sand powers were amazing. Really intriguing stuff. Of course, it's an S tier. Dozy versus Choji is really short. I mean, is it there? Maybe not. I wish we could see more of Dozy though. And speaking of, this wasn't really much of a fight either. He was killed rather quickly. It's still another showing of how dangerous Gara could be. So in that way, I could maybe bump it up here. But it's not much either way. It was just taken out in one hit. So, and this is actually one fight I wish lasted longer. And I was always curious as to how Baki actually killed Hayate here. He seemed to use like this really strange, dangerous jutsu, but we just didn't see how he died in the original episode anyway. But I also liked the Crescent Moon thing that Hayate used. Wish we could see more of it, but it wasn't much of a fight either. So, and Baki isn't really one we saw much of for at least a very long time. Neji versus Naruto in the actual Chunin exams. Yeah, I think it's an A tier. It shows Naruto's strength, and even though it's kind of silly, he knocked out Neji with this one punch. It was impactful, and well, still everything around Neji, his character development also, I think was really good, and well executed. Sasuke versus Gaara is actually one that disappoints me because Gaara just went through the hallways and down into the arena. He kills the two people, scared the living out of Shikamaru and Naruto who were on their way up. But still, this fight made Gaara look. I mean, we didn't see like the Eye of Shikaku and build towards like this monster unleashing at some point, but just Gaara himself seemed so powerless in comparison when it came to Sasuke. Like Sasuke did so much and seemed so much more powerful than Gaara. I mean, like Lee had just been this guy who was finally able to actually hurt Gaara a little bit, and here's Sasuke making him bleed and just really overpowering him for the most part. I wasn't too fond of that, to be honest. I wish we could see more of how Gaara could hurt Sasuke instead of just Sasuke being the one hurting Gaara. So actually, it feels so one-sided, and yeah, I think it hurts Gaara somewhat. So unfortunately, I'll put it down here. I was just never a huge fan here. This one, I'm not. Is it a fight? I see it's Ebisu and of course Naruto with his jutsu, but yeah. I kind of, yeah, okay. If I have Shikamaru down here against Kin, at least this is like a personal favorite of mine. I love Shikamaru versus Tamari, and just seeing, like, making it clear for everyone now that Shikamaru is a super genius, outsmarting Tamari, and still giving up, which is so fitting for his character. And he says like, it will just mean more work if he continued. So. And he's actually the only one who turned out to become a tune-in, which is hilarious. But this is like what he had to show for it. And it was amazing. I love that. This, I think, goes in S tier. Orochimaru, along with the first and second Hokage against Hiruzen. Amazing battle. Looking back, it was like this huge, amazing, like all-powerful battle that no one could ever match. But we see a lot of stuff later, especially in Shippuden, which is just much more insane than this. But still, for the time, it was amazing. And I just want to mention that like, of course, I don't think. I think things have been different since then. Oops, in that like it seemed like the fourth Hokage was maybe the most powerful. The third Hokage was then most powerful, and Hashirama wasn't as powerful as he seemed to be come, or at least talked about later in the series. But uh, like some people have been talking about how Hiruzen feared Minato the most since he just had to stop the third casket to really appear. And of course, it might have been some ways that he was his worst opponent compared to the first and second Hokage. Maybe it was like that back then. But like at, with everything we know now, he probably wasn't the most dangerous among the three. But people still questioned why Hiruzen like fought so hard to stop Orochimaru from reanimating Minato. If well, at least we assume, of course, he had number 4 on the casket, so it should have been him. Even though there's a plot hole here with the Reaper Death Seal and everything, but so some people questioned why he only tried to stop the third one. I mean, he probably didn't know what to expect when it came to the first 2 caskets, so they just kind of happened. But he saw an opportunity to stop the third one. I mean, of course he would try to stop the third one if he knew what was coming. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter much if that was the third casket was like the second Hokage, or maybe in the first. I think he would prefer to just have 2 extra opponents instead of 3, no matter what, like, who the third one was. And I just think it's funny how some people actually questioned it that much. Yeah, I just had to mention that. I'll try to speed things along. I've seen I've been talking for about 45 minutes soon. I still have a lot to go here. So Shino versus Konkuro, I actually think is a really cool battle, and I love how he chased him down and really wanted to fight him because he was his original opponent in the Chunin exam. I thought that was amazing. Actually, a really cool fight as well. Sasuke and Gaara, I don't remember much from these battles, and this is like more of monster battles rather than ninja battles, which is kind of the kind of fights I'd rather watch. So I actually, even though it's really impactful, it changes Gaara a lot. So maybe this one will go here because of that. But yeah, I think like I don't like the monster battles as much as I like the ninja battles. I like to see ninja powers rather than monsters fighting each other here in this series. So another weird one. I mean, why should this one be that different from this one? Like Kakashi entered, of course, sure, but Guy entered later and didn't do much, of course. But I think these are the same battle, and it's at least A tier. I love. Well, I'll have to zoom out a little bit here. I absolutely love Itachi's introduction. I already mentioned that he's. I think, in my personal opinion, he's the best character, like the most interesting one, has the most interesting development, and so many other things. I think he's the best character in the entire series. And his introduction here was amazing. The battle was amazing too. We got to see what he was capable of. I wish Kishimoto had like the design of the Mangekyo Sharingan ready for this battle, because we see just like the normal Sharingan when he uses Tsukuyomi, and I wish it was kind of different, but you can't blame him for that. Things got better along the way as well, but it was also like the first thing we saw from Kisame as well. So I think it was amazing, and those episodes, like the episode where Itachi first appears, I think is one of the most important episodes in the entire series. There's so much happening, so much new things to learn. It's a really short amount of time, and I love that. So Itachi and Sasuke. Kind of weird to use this photo. Um, well, there wasn't much of a fight between Jiraiya, Kizuma, and Itachi either, though. Um, as a fight, not much. Still, okay, I'll put it here. It's still important in the way that, you know, you get to see just how much more powerful Itachi is than Sasuke. And Sasuke, like, Itachi is of course the person he wants to kill, so just seeing the difference in power here was eye-opening. And had they gotten to fight a little bit more, like if Jiraiya got to fight more, Naruto didn't get to do much, but it could have been higher, and maybe at least solidify the placement on the A tier a little bit more, but I think it's still up there, even though there wasn't much of a fight. Tsunade and Naruto, I think it's important as well, but that battle isn't that great. I mean, it's just... Well, we see Tsunade's strength, which is awesome. The three-way deadlock, I'll put it in S tier. I think it's an amazing battle. All three summonings, all these three students of Hiruzen, the three legendary Sannin, all fighting against each other. Well, at least there was like 2-on-1 though, with Kabuto as well. Oh, I hate that guy, but still, it's... yeah, okay, I see. We have Naruto versus Kabuto here as well. It shows the determination, strength, and conviction from Naruto, which is great. So I'll put it up here in A tier. When it comes to the Bell trial, it's really early. The 1,000 years of pain is a weird thing. It's kind of important, but it's so early. We don't get to like learn that much. I don't think it's higher up than here. So we have Sasuke and Naruto on top of the hospital. Didn't happen much, but we at least saw the difference in power between the Rasengan and Chidori, at least in some point, which got Sasuke thinking even more about his choices and which path he should go in order to reach his goals. So it's important, but it's not much. So it could have been A maybe, but I don't find it that interesting, to be honest. So Choji versus Jirobo, the Sasuke retrieval arc I think is amazing. This might be my least favorite among these. It made Choji look great. The food pills of course helped him a lot, but we got to see him grow a lot. I think the best one was Neji versus Kidomaru, I think his name is. And as I watched it again, I thought it was maybe even better than I remembered. I think maybe it's actually an S tier. Neji really held his own here, and he, for his character of especially, you know, being this one guy about destiny and everything, and being almost evil, sinister. Just him showing his companionship, his loyalty, and like almost sacrificing himself knowingly that he would have this really hard time, but still did it anyway. Great character moment, especially. I almost get choked up just thinking about it right now, but he was amazing in this fight, and the battle was great. Again, Shikamaru is my favorite character among the Konoha 12, no doubt, but I did like it more than Choji's battle, but it's not the best one, I can say that for sure. I still put it up here though. And again, here's like Tamari entering. It doesn't... Well, she blows Tayuya away pretty easily, but I mean, I think of it as the same battle. And Kiba and... actually, this is where Kiba peaks, I think. he too, like Neji, wasn't that much of a jerk or more on the darker side, just like Neji, but he was kind of a dick to Naruto in some ways. But seeing his camaraderie here as well, he was willing to sacrifice himself just to take down Sakon and Ukon. But his merging with Akamaru, that was like the coolest jutsu he ever did. After this, it was only Gatsuga, 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 and then he never did anything new, so to speak. Even in Shippuden, when he had grown up, both he and Akamaru had grown up a lot more. I think it's too bad because it if he didn't peak in the Chunin exams, he definitely peaked here, and everything just went downhill. Unfortunately, because he was really promising in the beginning. So here we have Kimimaro versus. If I was to separate this, Naruto would be lower than Gaara and Lee, but I still think this was an amazing fight. Also, character development here for Gaara especially. The fun thing was, of course, Lee being drunk, which really was hilarious. But Gaara had like he was a lot nicer. Like he had a lot of character development since his last encounter with Naruto, and seeing him being like there to support Lee, he and all the powers he had. I mean, Kimimaro was really powerful as well, so it was a really high level battle. I felt like maybe Gar would be able to destroy him because of just how dangerous he used to be, but now that he was kind of more in control, I kind of felt like, at least the first time I watched it, I kind of felt like he was seen just a bit weaker. But when I rewatched this again a couple of years ago, he had a lot of different cool powers that should have been able to defeat almost anyone. I just think Kimimaro was that powerful, which was why he had such a hard time taking him out. I actually think Kimimaro also I mean, he was there. He was loyal to Orochimaru, but he never seemed like this bad person. Even though he was, kind of fierce, he could have killed both of them. But like the moment where Lee asks him to stop just to drink his medicine when he first becomes drunk, Kimimaro actually allows him to drink that. He's just, right, sure, go ahead. It's kind of like he seemed like a kind of a good character, but he was just on the wrong side, which is too bad. But the battle is amazing, and just seeing the end here, and Gar was lucky, of course, as we see, but like all the sand, all the bones, it was the whole landscape changed due to this battle. Is this from the first arc against these demon brothers? I think it is, and it's not much, but it at least shows like how different Sasuke and Naruto are in the beginning. It's part of their developments, so not much, but not bad either, of course. So this is Naruto and Sasuke, and maybe it's this is an unpopular opinion. This is highly regarded as one of the best fights in the entire series, and I can understand why, but just to me, at this point, these two didn't have the powers I enjoyed most to see. It's emotional, of course, but I'm not sure, but it just didn't stick. Maybe not. No, stick the landing is wrong to say because the ending is amazing. Yeah, I have to say that the ending is amazing, but like the whole way there, it's kind of weird. It's super important, and objectively because of that, it goes up here. I'll do that S tier, but personally, I don't think it's as entertaining to me than many other ones that I'll. Sorry. I'm really sorry about that. But yeah, I'll try to explain later. So we have the next bell round between Kakashi, Sakura, and Naruto, and it's funny how They actually win by Naruto trying to tell spoilers about the book Kakashi was reading, the newest book Jiraiya brought with him. Um, it's a rematch. I don't think it has so much going for it. And the one thing I just really wonder about is the the speed of Kakashi's hand techniques. It was supposed to be this impressive thing, and like his movements with his hands were super fast. It was cool, but he spent just as much time as he would normally. I felt it never helped, and we never saw it again, which was really weird. So I just think it's strange to see that here. Gara versus Deidara is definitely one of. I think it was a really cool way to start off Shippuden. Deidara is an interesting character. Many people claim him to be stronger, or at least like a lot stronger than Gara, because he won this fight. But I just rarely see people defend Gara in the way that, hello, he's a Kazakage. He's fighting a guy with explosives, and he has to like spend a lot of his strength and chakra to defend the whole village to not get casualties. If they had fought like in an open field, I think Gara could have beaten Deidara, but it would have been more even at least, because then he could focus all his strength on Deidara himself and not like creating this huge sand shield for the entire village like he had to do. Sasori versus Kankuro. I just think now if I should move it all the way up to, it was great, but yeah, maybe not that great. Well, I think I'll put it down here. Actually, I thought I put the first Bell showdown in the B tier, but yeah, I never look back at this and just think how. Yeah, I think I'll put these here. Should I? I should put this here as well. Either way, like Sasori was cool to learn about. He was the one that created those puppets, and well, it was kind of interesting. It built up the mystique, like towards the reveal of how he was, how he looked, everything like that. Okay, there's so many people nowadays that probably disagree with me, but like up until this point in Shippuden, I think this fight blew everything out of the water. Like all that's ever happened before, even Naruto versus Sasuke, I thought this was the coolest fight in the entire series at that point. I was so amazed with the Kazakage retrieval arc. I was so psyched to see more of Akatsuki, what Sasori could do. Like everything about him was so interesting. I thought they built him up really well. I think it's too bad he died that early, but it was so interesting. It was so cool to see them fight. Uh, the battle is honestly amazing. One of the best, I think. I think it still is when I see it over again. I just get nostalgic, of course, but I thought the whole battle was amazing, and that's also credit to Sakura, even though she didn't do everything on her own. It was still a great fight. Kakashi and Naruto versus Deidara. There was some fighting here. I think this is the first time we see Kakashi using Kamui as well, which was really interesting. It's the first time we see him use the Mangekyo Sharingan, even though it was hinted at in his encounter with Itachi. So I'm having trouble here seeing who this is. I mean, there's fire. It looks like. I think it looks like Guy or Lee. Yeah, but why is there so much? It's Kisame and Guy, I think. But why is there fire? I just can't remember that part. But that's the same as this one, isn't it? Why is these two different? That's strange. I did unfortunately think that these battles with Kisame and Itachi um, are... Well, Itachi was interesting with the Genjutsu and everything. It wasn't amazing though. I think I'll put both of them here in B tier. Now, a lot of people remember the Land of Waves, or whatever it was called, with great fondness. Uh, and Zabuza and everything. It never clicked that well with me. Um, but I still think objectively, it's a B tier to me. This one, Orochimaru versus like the cloaked Naruto. Yeah, I think it's a B tier for me here. This one didn't do much. It was an interesting encounter, of course, but I don't think it's much better than this. So, Hidan is actually one of my favorites in Akatsuki, and I think it's so like too bad he didn't have more powers, even though his powers were really interesting. And this is my bias, actually. S tier for this one. I thought this was an amazingly cool battle. His powers really got to shine here. I mean, what were their names again? Kotetsu and no. Oh, I just forgot those. And those tune-ins you never remember what their names are that accompanied Asuma and Shikamaru. They were standing around a little too long doing nothing, of course, but I still think like I was so excited to see more of Akatsuki, especially, and these two I'd heard so much about from my friends reading the manga, which I didn't, and I think it really delivered. And I think this was actually better than these next ones, even though Shikamaru taking out Hidan by himself was really cool, really climactic. I think Kakuzu had a lot of potential. He seemed so much cooler during the first encounter than he did in the last. The heart thing, the like hardening of his body, and these tendrils, or like the threads he kind of uses. I think that was all awesome. I think the kind of lamest thing is those masks with elementals, that was like his hidden power, like elemental power. I was expecting something more like kind of like how Hidan used, immortality, more like this what should I say, like something more it's hard to describe, more deadly, more grim, or something like that. And I've seen discussions on YouTube as well, just how powerful was Kakuzu really. He did seem weaker than I hoped in the anime. I think he had more potential we could have seen more of, which was disappointing. And it annoys me how people, like some people argue that, well, he faced Hashirama and he survived, he must be really strong. And other people were like, well, he faced him, but he lost, of course. And why does that even matter? I mean, people attack people using that argument that he fought Hashirama and survived. But I think the whole point of... I never took it as like he fought Hashirama, he survived, therefore he must be strong. Never thought that was the point of him having that line. I just thought that he was old enough to have faced Hashirama at some point. He didn't say anything about fighting him one-on-one. He didn't say anything about, how badly hurt either one of them got. They could have just both been on the same battlefield, maybe had this one small encounter and that's it, and maybe someone retreated, Maybe he did. Maybe his group did. Maybe Hashirama did. I mean, we saw like, where is it? We saw Minato versus B and A, but like they both fought, parties fought each other, but neither of them died. That could have happened as well with Kakuzu. I think he was unfairly used. He should have been more. We should have seen more of him, basically. Okay, so this isn't really that much of a fight, but I still think this is an S tier thing when it comes to the story, and it was really interesting to see how Orochimaru's jutsu to take over other people's bodies actually worked. So I think it's an S tier. It was a huge turn of events in the series, hugely impactful, and it was super exciting to see it happen. To see it happening. So S tier for me. I see now that we have Naruto versus Kakuzu here. I think that's maybe the worst part, but I just said that I want to put a lot of these together when I feel they actually belong together, so I'll do it like that. So we have Jugo. I guess this is the part where they come for Jugo and he attacks. It's not much. It's not totally bad, but it's not much either. Sasuke versus Deidara is really cool. It actually amazes me how, like, Sasuke is far from my favorite character, and he's not always the one I want to see fight, but he's spoiler, he's very often involved in the best fights in the entire series. Of course, a lot of it is because of him, but it's also because of his opponents and how well they kind of complement each other. So Deidara had these amazing fights. I kind of felt like it was unnecessary for him to attack Sasuke, and like that's the way he went out. But the battle is super amazing. I think it's super awesome. So it's definitely S tier for me. Jiraiya versus Pain. I really want to see this over again, because it was such a huge mystery just to what, like, we were just as clueless as Jiraiya was. Like, he knew Conan, he knew Yahiko's appearance, but we just had no idea how everything worked. It was so mysterious, it was so interesting, and I was just glued to the screen when this fight occurred. An S tier for me. This was actually one of the first episodes I looked up. I just, maybe not this exact episode, but I remember these ice mirrors from Haku. And I just searched for an episode with a cool title. I think the episode was named The Broken Seal, and I just thought it sounded interesting, so I checked it out. So this is like, we have Zabuza and Haku fighting the Kakashi's squad, but it's not one of my favorites, but it's kind of impactful, and it's not worse than this one. I guess this was the earlier encounter where Kakashi was trapped in a prison, water prison at some point, and Naruto and Sasuke had to break him free, which was great though. And I think it's not one that I'll go back to watch that often, but I still think it's a really cool one. Itachi versus Sasuke, up and to the top. It's kind of a, like, looking back, it's, well, you see the Susanoo, of course, but just looking back, it's kind of weird to see how much both of them kind of grow after this battle as well, because this was like a huge highlight for the series. It's been established from the beginning that Sasuke was out after his brother because Itachi killed his clan. He was vilified because of this, and this was like Sasuke's entire goal, the entire series. The beginning, I love how they use genjutsu just to feel each other out. I mean, how Itachi points at the seat where he's still sitting after we almost thought that Sasuke killed Itachi in the beginning. It was amazing. We saw Amaterasu for real there, for like the actual real first time, which was amazing. We saw Kirin, a great jutsu. We learned that Itachi might be struggling with his health. Uh, we see him draw out Orochimaru and just like immediately take him out. But I do think they should have foreshadowed the Yara mirror and the jeez, I forgot the name. The sword, both the sword and the shield that his Susanoo had. They should have foreshadowed it better. That just came out of nowhere. Even Susanoo, in general, even maybe not Susanoo, but at least the Yata mirror and the sword. I just forgot about the name. But still, the build up, the execution, the finish. Not to mention the finish was amazing. Just I was left stunned when I saw Itachi died, and then the twist afterwards, totally amazing. No doubt. I think maybe it's my favorite battle in the entire series. So we have Toby with the whack-a-mole thing. I think it goes and see it here. It was like I love the story element when Kakashi sees his Sharingan. That was amazing, but like the battle wasn't too great. Killer Bee versus Sasuke. I love rewatching this battle, and I'm so glad he used this picture because that's my favorite moment in the entire fight. The lariats that he delivers is so amazing, and Sasuke just gets destroyed this fight here. Killer Bee was not to be messed with. I I do appreciate foreshadowing, but I think maybe we learned about this Jinchuriki actually having better control of his tail beast than others had. So we knew that, but we really had no idea just how powerful this guy was. And I think it worked in the favor as well. And you know how he was good with swords, he had lightning, he had counters for Sasuke's lightning, which was awesome. I think like this character introduction as well is really good, but man, the battle is exciting to see. So Pain invading the village. Yeah, I think this was maybe the best part when it came to like the different paths of Pain, attacking different sections of the village. I think this was the most exciting one. Kakashi versus I almost forget the names, but he's like Yahiko's Pain, so to speak. So I think it goes there. I think this is Konohamaru. His part, it wasn't too bad, nothing too special, but he was fighting the one Pain that had to like get people to tell the truth, I think. And Ebisu rejected his chance to rat out Naruto, just showed how strong the bond is in the village. It was good for what it was. Pain versus Naruto, it's almost kind of weird that it's not divided into like Nine-Tailed Fox versus Pain. Okay, so the thing is that I think Sage Naruto versus Pain was amazing. I'm not a huge fan of the animation of the tail beasts. Even though I love the build up to how Naruto just rages and lets the tails come out after Hinata sort of sacrifice. It's a huge, powerful moment, without a doubt. But the animation is so chaotic. I can't keep up. It just all. I think it's just too much happening, and I think it's kind of silly. I mean, how Kurama just takes a plate, like this huge stone plate, that just bashes Pain down to the ground. It suddenly just becomes Tom and Jerry. I mean, I'm not here to really speak ill about this battle because it's really great, climactic. After Pain had destroyed the village, of course. But what I do love the moments where more and more tails come. Yamato starts running towards the village, freaking out, seeing the number of tails hand palm just change over time. It's so emotional. Then Minato comes. It's There are parts I don't like, but there are parts I love about this battle, without a doubt. So Karui and Omoi, I think, and Naruto. Is there? Yeah, I think Sakura's there as well. Is there much of a fight there? I just remember Karui just beating the shit out of Naruto. So it's not much, but he doesn't want to rat out his best friend. It's interesting. Okay, so here I see Zabuza with all the dogs. I kind of can't. Well, there are different, like separate fights. It is. It's Haku versus Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi versus Zabuza. But I still put him there at the same in the same spot. Sasuke at the Five Kage Summit, I actually enjoy a lot. I like these better. Like these all kind of mesh together for me as well, but this is amazing. Like you see the power of the right Kage, and just I love how it just punches through the Inferno style Susanoo that Sasuke has. I love Gaara trying to talk him out of the darkness. Still ends up fighting him. It's amazing, to be honest. I thought Torne and Fu versus Toby was cool. It's not A tier cool, maybe. It was short. It shows how powerful Toby is, or Obito. But Danzo versus Sasuke, really awesome. We get to see Danzo for real. Izanagi is used a lot here. I actually kind of felt for Danzo when he finally fell. Uh, which is weird to say, but I thought his death was well done. Um, and like it's a battle between two insanely powerful shinobis at the time. There, it's quite entertaining. Um, yeah, these two go to the same spot as well. I think it's maybe A. It's not better than Danzo versus Sasuke, but it's still like huge moments between like Naruto, Kakashi. Kakashi even references how Hiruzen must have felt when he fought Orochimaru when he tried to stop Sasuke. That was great. Okay, Kisame versus Killer B. I actually think it's an S tier one as well. I love the beginning of the fight here. For some reason, I mean, we always knew that Kisame had a lot of chakra and that Samhada could absorb chakra. We actually learned that really early from his introduction. But we never heard like the nickname, the tailless tailed beast, until Chojuro said that at the Five Kage Summit. But we really see how powerful Kisame is here, and I really enjoyed like the beginning, also as I was about to say, how he analyzes. He's actually able to analyze, the attacks from the what was it called again? The music style. It was I've forgotten. He had like this huge raccoon, his trainer there, and then B, he has this pencil thrown against him at the same time he's trying to like B comes up from behind, and Kisame tries to like slow things down, try to figure out how do I get out of this situation, how do I block these attacks, how do I avoid it. I thought it was really cool, and I enjoyed the rest of the battle as well. Konan versus Obito is at least A tier, at least. I think it's an underrated battle. I think it's S tier actually. We see Izanagi here as well. We see Konan like making this last stand for her original vision for Akatsuki, trying to protect the Rinnegan from Obito. It's actually a really good fight, and it's she had. I think the last time we saw her was her giving flowers to like the paper flowers to Naruto after Nagato died. So just seeing her trying to take out Obito and follow, oh, like the first thing she, uh, along with Yahiko and Nagato, fought for. It's really sad to see how it ends for her, but amazing fight. So I guess this is Naruto versus Kurama. I can't remember much about it, but it's important because it helps Naruto gain control of Kurama here. This is a short one, but still an amazing one, and this picture is the exact moment that's just so amazing about this battle. Seeing the power of Minato. It's so weird to think that Obito was such a huge threat at that age, but still a really cool battle. So there's a lot of the more of these Edo Tensei battles in the war arc, and I can't say that I enjoyed that many of them, to be honest. There's one exception though. Like we have Kankuro versus Sasori. Can't remember much about them. Speaking of, isn't okay, we have Choji and Choza versus the Geto statue here. We have Sai versus his brother. Kinkaku, Ginkaku wasn't too interesting. Asuma, a little more interesting. Oh yeah, of course, here's Sabusa, and I guess this is also the rest of the seven swordsmen, because that's what I was kind of seeking here. That was interesting, but I was disappointed. I had been looking so much forward to see how the rest of the seven swordsmen were, how the different swords, like what different powers they had. I gotta say that after the Executioner's Blade, whatever it was called, that Sabusa had, Segetsusus, and Samahada, and then the lightning rods or lightning blades that Raiga used in the filler arc. After seeing those that had really cool powers, I think the rest were pretty lame, maybe except for the sewing needle, which was really interesting, but the rest were, like, some of them weren't even swords. I think the one that Chojuro had, that Mangetsu, Segetsu's brother, used, was also really cool in some ways, but like the axe and the hammer was stupid, the explosive sword wasn't really that cool. Either way, it was kind of disappointing in the end. So yeah, this is like before the Chunin exam where Lee fights. It's nothing special, I think. Kisame versus Guy. It was cool. I think more importantly, I just love Kisame's ending, his death. I think it's much more interesting than the fights. Then we have Kabuto trying to capture Yamato. He's riding along with Deidara. Don't remember much about the fight itself. Mifune versus Hanzo wasn't really that interesting. It's been, yeah, I think maybe it's down here. The Raikage and B, well, Naruto and B versus the Raikage, I mean, and Tsunade was really interesting, really cool. But the even cooler battle when it comes to the Edo Tensei is of course B and Naruto versus Nagato and Itachi. I was so intrigued by how Itachi and Nagato were walking off, like just the two of them somewhere. I was so interested in seeing like what were they supposed to do. This is going to be awesome. And then they're actually ended up facing B and Nagato. No, B and Naruto, I mean. And seeing Itachi break out of reanimation, like seeing Naruto speak to both Nagato and Itachi as themselves before they get like, or at least Nagato gets his willpower overturned to Kabuto's will. That was really interesting, and of course how the fight turns into Nagato versus the other three. It was amazing. So here's back to the Force to Death again. Kind of a weird order. So I have to find, Sasuke versus Orochimaru. So this is the same battle for me. And then I'm just not too sure if this is Hashirama versus Madara, or I just have to zoom in a little bit, maybe a lot, to see. Yeah, I think this is Hashirama versus Madara. Important battle for sure, but nothing in S tier from me. I think maybe this is how I rank this. So that took quite a while, 1.5 hours. Jesus, that's a lot. So yeah, I think the worst battle is Danzo versus Shisui. We didn't see much. She took the eye too easily, and apparently a fight between Naruto and Ebisu at some point. So there are a lot of different tiers here, and maybe I actually, if I looked very like very into this list again, maybe I would have changed things. But I'm pretty sure at least at S tier, Nagato and Itachi versus B and Naruto, Obito versus Conan, Kisame versus B, and then A at the end, Sasuke versus Danzo, Sasuke versus the 5 Kage at the summit, Naruto versus Pain, Killer B versus Sasuke, Itachi versus Sasuke, Sasuke versus Deidara, Jiraiya versus Pain, then Sasuke versus Orochimaru, Hidan versus Asuma and the gang, Naruto Sasuke 1, should I call it that? At least from the original. Sasori versus Sakura and Chiyo, Kimimaro versus Naruto, Lee and Gaara, Neji versus Kiromaru, the 3-way deadlock, Orochimaru versus Hiruzen, Gaara versus Lee, Obito versus the Mist Ninja, after Kakashi and Rin, well, Rin died. Naruto versus Sasuke, the final counter, Guy versus Madara, Obito versus Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke versus Orochimaru, the Force to Death, and Madara versus the 5 Kage. I think those are the S tier battles. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry it got this long, but there are a lot of fights to talk about here, and this is the first time I'm talking about Naruto on this channel, so I guess I just had a lot to say. I hope you enjoy this, and if you just skim through, I understand. I mean, 1.5 hours is a lot. So there you have it. Remember, this is just my personal opinion. I'm neither right or wrong. I'm just some guy who ranks stuff. So please leave a comment if there's something you want me to know, or something a tip you want to give me for when it comes to video making. And well, I hope to see you soon.